was the crime of the century, a horrifying and gruesome double murder that, after more than 100 years, is still unsolved.
Mr. Borden and his wife were brutally hatcheted to death early in the morning.
These two victims were butchered.
Join us at the house where it all happened. One of the most haunted locations in the world.
There's a residual energy that's here.
Footsteps, people talking, doors slamming.
A lot of people see the toys being moved around.
There's a man there, and I don't know who he is.
It is about the right size for most of the wounds on the Borden skulls.
Our experts will break down the murders and the trial. They'll discuss alternate theories and potentially overlooked suspects.
Uncle John's alibi doesn't hold water.
Join host Susan Slaughter and your favorite paranormal researchers as they search for answers to the crime and the haunting. Will the ghost of the house offer any clues? Will Lizzie herself make contact? Find out as the Dark Zone brings you the Lizzie Borden Murder House.
We are back with our next guest as we continue forward talking about the investigation, the crime, the investigation, and the trial.
This was one of the most sensationalized cases in American history.
One that generated front page news and headlines across the country.
So the trial was held in New Bedford Superior Court. It was a jury of her peers, and it was all men. Women back in 1893 didn't have the right to vote, so they couldn't sit on a jury.
The key to the prosecution case was that the interval between the murders meant that it really could not have been an outside assailant. The prosecution case was entirely circumstantial. The main witnesses for the defense were people who had seen strange men in the vicinity. The idea that there could have been someone else.
Then we're suggesting that somebody killed the mother and then hid in the closet for an hour and a half to wait to do the other one. And who would do that?
Well, the question of whether or not Lizzie Borden was going to testify was hotly debated in the newspapers. And the defense's position was simply that she had nothing to account for, that the prosecution never proved its case, and so there was no point in putting her on the stand. If convicted, the only penalty for murder was death. Despite the unusually long trial, the jury finds that they're unanimous on the first ballot. Before the clerk of the court could even finish asking what their verdict was, the foreman yelled out, "Not guilty." Lizzie Borden falls as if shot, and the crowd erupted in cheers.
She was acquitted. Nobody could imagine a woman doing that kind of brutality.
For a man to send a woman to the gallows, they couldn't do it because they thought that women were too fragile.
Okay, so you saw our next guest featured prominently in that last video. Our next guest actually wrote the book on the trial. Let's everybody meet Kara Robertson. Hello, Kara.
Hi.
So I feel like you've kind of become the authority on this trial, on the trial itself, right? So, what do you think, just in terms of how the trial gets set up? What were the missteps along the way?
There were a number of things that were just very difficult in terms of mounting a prosecution for a case like this. I mean, you have as the defendant someone who ticks all the boxes of respectable upper middle class womanhood, someone whose very essence at that moment in late 19th century America is supposed to be incapable of that kind of brutality, particularly if you think about it being brutality directed at a father. The stepmother, everybody seemed to understand, that I guess is an enduring enough trope. the bad stepmother, that people could understand the dislike of these adult women living together in the house. But the idea that Lizzie Borden would have, as the rhyme goes, picked up an axe or a hatchet or some other sharp implement and dealt that kind of violence to her beloved father just was a pretty big barrier to overcome.
Talk about the jury. Talk about the jury and why what happened at that time would not happen today.
Right. I think the thing that's most noticeable about the jury, if you look at a picture, and I think we saw one in the introductory video, is that they're all men, and they're all sort of stern-looking men, though that's a feature of the way photography was conducted. And obviously, you wouldn't have had that today. They're also all white.
Yeah, I feel like men would grossly underestimate like a woman being able to do such a heinous crime that it actually worked in her favor to have that type of jury.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear because we know that there was what the reporters called a second self-constituted jury of women who attended the trial, and they were a lot more hostile than the men who ultimately determined her fate.
There are theatrics in terms of how the defense was mounted that she hit her face and she got emotional and she fainted and things like that. Let's talk about that and how that potentially worked on the jury.
Yeah, Lizzie Borden famously did not testify in her own defense, but I think to say that she didn't testify isn't the same thing as saying that she didn't perform, in a sense, for the jury. So that one of the most famous incidents at the trial happens at the end of the opening statement, where the prosecution gestures towards a bag in which the skulls of the Bordens were kept, and Lizzie Borden at that point faints, and that the faint itself is covered as a kind of news phenomenon, and she gets a certain amount of approval for that. And some people see it as a sign of obvious innocence of the way that you'd hope a lady would bear up under their circumstances, and other people think this is really odd that she's able to be this calm and self-possessed given the murders, and also given what she's undergoing at the trial. She should be more of a mess, and so the faint is sort of a perfect ladylike action. Voluntary or not.
She had kind of the dream team, right? She had, I mean, if you think about contemporary cases, and obviously the one that springs to mind is O.J. Simpson, he had a dream team, and potentially if it wasn't for that dream team, he would not have been found not guilty. But she had a dream team too at that time. Tell us about that.
Yeah, as you point out, it's a good parallel to the O.J. Simpson case, both for the press coverage and in particular for the lawyers and the way in which the lawyers helped shape the story. So she starts out with her a local attorney named Jennings, who quickly realizes that he needs some help, and so he hires a very prominent Boston attorney. And then goes beyond that to hire the ex-governor of Massachusetts, who's also a noted trial attorney, but is a kind of folksy character. He's definitely the Johnny Cochran of that team.
There's a variety of things that, if they had been presented during the trial, may have changed the outcome. And one of them is this fact that there were some bloody cloths found in the basement that potentially, on kind of first glance, you think, well, these were used to clean up the crime scene, right? And they're found in the basement of this house that Lizzie Borden lives in. Can you speak to that? What is the case there? So
they were found immediately, after the murders, And the officer who discovered them, immediately asked for an explanation. Lizzie Borden directed him to speak to her doctor, and her doctor said, it's okay. In other words, they're menstrual clogs. Lizzie Borden was menstruating, and that's the explanation. And what I think is most significant is that both sides simply agreed to leave it there.
This was a circus. It was a huge case. I mean, it was like a case for the century, right? I mean, they hadn't seen a case like this at that time.
Right. There are many cases that are described as the trial of the century, but this really was the trial of the century. And you alluded to Jay. You alluded to O.J. Simpson before, and that's really the closest parallel. I mean, the kind of press coverage that this case received was equivalent to what you may recall with Camp OJ. And the similarity too is that you have technology on some level driving the coverage. One local described the number of telegraph wires that are coming out of the courtroom building and into this shed and then out to the world as enough to be able to hang all the washings in the county on. And so that's sort of the equivalent of the cable news moment that O.J. Simpson the O.J. Simpson trial both benefited from and also in its own way launched.
Do you think that her actions based off of, what we were seeing in trial and people's observations, she was, on the spectrum and doesn't, necessarily think or act like, what we would consider normal people?
We do know that the prosecution really assumed that there was some kind of mental explanation. I mean, mental illness explanation. I mean, they actually just talked about insanity, and really wanted Lizzie Borden to be interviewed or examined by leading experts. They couldn't get the defense to agree to that because the defense understandably thought that would be seen as an admission of guilt. And their position was simply that she didn't do it. She's just at the wrong place at the wrong time. So there's absolutely no reason for any of that.
Was there ever any aspect to the case where the defense suggested other suspects?
The defense suggested a sort of hypothetical other subject. In other words, an unidentified anonymous other subject, in that there were spottings of a pale man. So he's described as looking sort of odd and as if he's lurking around the area. What the defense really was trying to do was just show it wasn't impossible for someone else to have done it. And as long as they could show it wasn't impossible for someone else to have done it, then they believe that pretty much eviscerated the prosecution case.
If you were on the jury, would you have come down the same way that the jury came down?
Yeah. Now, of course, I wouldn't have been allowed on the jury, as we discussed, right? Because they wouldn't let women on the jury. I think there's reasonable doubt in the case. That I think that you can see that. I mean, it doesn't seem so obviously mistaken to me, given what they didn't know that we know. I mean, we know, for example, that we know about Lizzie Borden's account of her movements from her own lips in a way that the jury never saw or heard because she didn't testify, and also because her inquest testimony wasn't admitted. And we also know she was alleged to have bought poison before the murder, or tried to poison. I mean, that's the significant part, and failed. Now, she never admitted to this, and so it's possible it was a mistake of identification. But if we assume that's accurate, then that goes to intent, and that makes it makes the whole thing a little harder to explain as just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But I think what's most significant about the jury's conclusion is just the rapidity with which they reached it. They were unanimous on the first ballot before they discussed any of the evidence. So that to me does not say reasonable doubt. That says we don't believe that somebody like Lizzie Borden could have done such a thing. And we're not really looking any further than that.
The Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast Museum. Is it haunted? This whole house is over some sort of vortex.
There's a residual energy that's here.
People have been touched in the house.
Nope.
What happened?
Nope.
What happened?
Nope, I got touched.
We've definitely heard voices from all sorts of different people, men, women, children. Footsteps up and down the stairs, doors slamming, knocks. We've gotten a lot of pictures of orbs and mist.
The back door that goes down to the cellar, covered in flies.
I was coming into the house to open it up, as we say, and I was heading up the back stairs. And right as I got to where Mr. Borden's room is, when I rounded the corner of the stairs, I threw my arms up because I thought I was gonna walk into someone. It looked like a shadow, like a figure. And then I realized that no one was in the house. So it took me a good 10 seconds to put my big girl pants on and keep doing my job. Some of our hot spots are definitely where the murders took place, the John Morse room where Mrs. Borden was killed, and the sitting room where Mr. Borden was killed. Personally, the third floor for me is the most active, and the Bridget Sullivan room, or the maid's room.
The Borden house has to rank up with those locations that we would declare to be active.
This guy you've been waiting for, and he is a very well-known fixture in the paranormal community. He is one of the new ghost hunters on the new Ghost Hunters show on A&E. So this is Brandon Alvis. Let's say hi, everybody, to Brandon. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you, man? Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Hi, Brandon.
Yes.
Hello, Susan.
Hey, so, all right, dude. So you've been to the B&B. You must have experiences and stories to talk about. Tell us what your impressions of the location were. Hey, we're now transitioning into the paranormal part of our program, so let's get paranormal.
Absolutely. You know, I was lucky enough to visit the B&B and actually check it out. Didn't get to investigate it, so I didn't really have any experiences per se, but it's an interesting case. And again, going back to this, traumatic deaths like that do entrap some entities. And that's something I firmly believe, especially with the other investigations I've conducted throughout the country with similar cases to this. So I'm always a firm believer when it comes to the paranormal that there is a common phenomena associated with certain entities and certain hauntings. So I think that if you go and do research on a place like the Villisca Axe Murder House or a place like Preston Castle, is there a correlation between the activity happening at the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast as there is at the Villisca Axe Murder House and Preston Castle? Is there a correlation, or is there a classification involved in that? I think that's something really interesting, especially from the paranormal perspective.
The axe murders at this location was created like a psychic scar on the location that potentially created the haunting. Do you guys kind of feel that?
I think that that's totally possible. I kind of believe in like the stone tape theory, and I think that if you have a conscious psychological trauma that can actually be recorded within the environment. Not necessarily do I think that the types of ghosts or entities that linger around are actual representations of the individual when they were alive, but I do believe it's aspects of that consciousness that happened in that moment. So you're not, I feel like a lot of the times when you go into locations like that, people try to host EVP sessions, and then they're expecting to talk to a conscious version of, for example, one of the Bordens, right? But really, the only thing that's left behind after something so traumatic like that is just a sliver, just a small fraction of the aspect of that consciousness that you're not really going to get an intelligent response. Trauma will definitely leave something there. There is energy to be experienced and felt way down the line of years. within a location, but you're not going to get the consciousness of that human. You're not going to be able to interact the way people want to interact, like get real responses, like what is life after death, which I think is the real reason why the paranormal investigations become so popular. That's the main question that we really try to answer. We're not interrogating ghosts just to like get their story. We're really doing it. The bigger picture is to understand life after death. At least it is for me.
I think it's, I agree with Susan, definitely, but I do believe, I've always believed in Einstein's theory that energy is neither created nor destroyed, right? So if you have this significant source of energy like this unfortunate murder that took place, that energy has to be there in some way. But the question is, does it retain consciousness, just like Susan was talking about? A lot of the times, I'm not sure that's the case, but definitely when you have such a traumatic event and this death that's so traumatic, it does entrap energy in some sense. And I think a lot of times that is in a residual way and not necessarily an intelligent way. So I definitely agree with Susan on a lot of what she said there.
If you were investigating this location together, how would you attack it? What would you do?
So I feel Brandon and I, actually, we've investigated locations in the past together, and we don't interrogate energies. That's something I feel like what we do is we try to like stir up the activity via like maybe listening to music of that era. I find that activity will come to you when you, especially in places that have been so investigated, like this location. You don't want to ask the same questions. You're like beating a dead horse over and over again. I actually feel like a lot of the times people go in and start asking questions, you're literally pushing that energy right out the door. So I think I'm more going to observe and let the cameras do a lot of the work and let our viewers do a lot of the observation. I do believe in like, if you're really intently observing something, and I believe that phenomena usually happens within spectrums of light, is a well-known fact recently that photons that are being observed will react differently. So if you're just have open eyes and ears, I think that we will actually be able to get some sort of phenomena result. That being said, when I stayed in the murder room for the first night, I had really intense tingling sensations on the top of my head, like right here. And I'm not going to correlate that to being like, okay, yes, like Abby was hatcheted in the head, but I have that sensation when phenomena starts to happen. I'll start getting what I call like fizzies in my crown chakra. And it's kind of letting me know that there is some sort of activity or energy there. And usually when that happens, it's some sort of intelligent energy trying to communicate. So I don't know if what's going on in here, I think it's recognizing that there's a crew in here, starts getting ready to do something. And I feel that energy in this house. But yet I don't necessarily feel like when I was sleeping in that room that I was getting visited by Abby or anyone from the Borden family. So I was really curious about that. I will probably ask some questions, but I would steer away from what a lot of people normally ask. I would try to just relate with the energies here as if I were a friend and not really bring up the murders.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And, Susan and I are very similar in mindset with investigating the paranormal. But again, anytime I go into a location, I'm going to look for empirical evidence and factual data that's going to help us understand what's really going on, not only from an environmental perspective, but from a phenomena perspective. Again, like Susan just said, asking questions about the murder could be very disrespectful in a way, especially in a location that's been so oversaturated, like the Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast, where you have people coming in there constantly asking questions about the murder. And I think that's going to push away some of the energy, just like Susan said. But again, I think something we have to take into account is the time period and the etiquette of these people, right? The way they lived their life, put ourselves in their shoes from the 1800s, late 1800s, to say, hey, look, this is the way they lived. This was the way they, handled their business. This is the way they looked at life. And I think that we have to kind of put ourselves into their shoes to understand that we have to approach that from their perspective. And I think that's really going to help an investigation tremendously. But again, it's all about the data. It's all about the factual data and the empirical evidence, and that's really what's going to speak about the haunting at the end of the day.
Brandon, thank you so much for coming on.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Very much appreciate it. And Susan, good luck with the investigation.
We'll
Thanks,
talk
guys.
to you later, man. Thank you.
So this is it. This is officially our base camp, and this is JW. He has a really cool company. Can you tell them about it, please?
I'm with ITC Devices.
And what does that mean?
I build paranormal equipment for teams, anybody that wants it, TV shows, whatever. IDC stands for Interdimensional Communicator. So the intercom box is just short for Interdimensional Communicator. But I build the intercom box and I build the direct links. A lot of people are probably seeing the direct links on different TV shows.
Right.
But some of the 2K boxes are also on some of the shows. So
that's cool. So here is your camera setup, right? We have a
Yes.
DVR system here.
yeah, and part of this is the intercom system. That's why you see the laptops. It's all tied together for ITC experiments for both audio and visual. So the intercom system spreads out across the entire house, bringing the entire investigation together under one ITC device.
I just want to point out all these video wire that we have. It seems precarious, but it's actually very well controlled and gaff tape and zip tied to corners, I promise. And then over there we have another DVR system as well. So why is it that we have the two DVR systems? What are they working towards?
Well, that system over there is monitoring the house, and that is your static cams. This system here is strictly for the intercom system.
Perfect.
So these cameras are basically monitoring anywhere the satellites are at, so that when you go back to review your audio and you found something that's out of the normal, you can go back and timestamp that and make sure there wasn't an investigator that wandered into the area or whatever, because you're looking for EVPs, disembodied voices, your direct radio voices. So you need to make sure when you're using a system like this that you don't get any false positives. So by having the cameras with the boxes, we can now see if anybody was in that area, and then we can debunk different things.
It just works as one whole concise
It works as
unit.
one whole system. It's the
I
only
love
one in
that.
the world. I built it over the last year, and it's pretty cool. I like it.
Okay, so I know we're talking about all this awesome tech gear, but we are going to kind of do something a little bit on the old school side tonight because we promised that to our viewers. So tonight, I will be conducting a Ouija board session. And what devices do you think will work well with that for tonight?
Actually, if you want to do old school Ouija board, I got the perfect one.
Okay.
The direct link. The IDC direct link is on the same principle as your Ouija board.
How does that work?
It's an exchange of energy. I believe that, and a lot of people do, that it's an exchange of energy that happens with the Ouija board that makes it move.
Right.
My direct link works the same way, and we can take one and go up there when we're ready, and it works the same way. It's using your energy, but it's going to give you a voice instead of you having to read, because in this day and age we're all lazy. We don't want to read, we want to hear it. So with the direct link, you get to listen to it. And probably a lot of people have seen them on various TV shows, and they seem to work very well for a lot of people. And then some people, the energy transfer is so intense that it makes a lot of noise, like especially people with abilities, and they have a hard time using it. So there's definitely something going on with that energy transfer.
So you're suggesting that while I do the classic Ouija session, you have your modern Ouija session, and we'll see how that corresponds tonight.
That sounds like a winner to me.
Okay, so
Palms are sweaty, mom's spaghetti, or something like that. Eminem, right?
All right. I just like to let the room settle for a little bit.
Now, after you ask your question, I'm going to do this.
Okay.
And you hear the sound difference? That's me laying my finger on it, allowing a spirit entity, whoever's out there that wants to communicate, they're going to use my energy. So when this volume's going up and down, that's me laying my finger on it, letting them use my energy, much like you'll be doing with the board, allowing them to use your energy.
Are you ready, Stacy? lightly. I'd like to invite any and all energies that surround us tonight to come forward and speak through us. We have some devices in this room. They're all able to hear and see you. They will not harm you. They're merely communication tools. Feel free to speak through any device or manifest however you see fit. I invite you here humbly to speak with us. Try not to lean. I was realizing I feel like kind of.
I just barely.
Yeah, I was leaning on my knee, which was bad form. So we have to keep a free arm. Is there anyone here with us tonight that would like to discuss anything, any subject? Barely touching it, looks like. Kind of going towards the T, right? Can you come forward a little stronger? You could use any of these devices to help assist you. Barely touching this. I could feel like you're barely touching this. I know. Oh, it's coming off the board.
What do we do about that?
I don't know. Okay, it's back on. Can you spell out your name? Are you hearing anything over there, JW?
Say that again.
Are you hearing anything over there?
Sounds like they're trying to maybe figure it out.
You went to the W? E, W-E, where is that going? It's like, it's so slow. We? Are you trying to say we? Are there several of you? A. Okay. R. We E.
We are.
We are. There you are.
I heard you said we are, and then I heard coming, and then I heard there you are, between the board and the device. I'm wondering if anyone else picked that up.
We're here. If you see us, come join us. H. That's so weird. I swore I saw your fingers come off. That's an E. But it kept moving. We are here.
Are you pushing this thing?
Look at where my fingers are.
I know. I'm sorry. I haven't never.
Okay.
I don't know if I've done it right. Done it a few times. That's
Here.
weird. I'm like, you feel my fingers bouncing.
They're just very barely. Okay, try not to lean on your legs. How many are you? You say we. How many?
What's that say?
27?
I heard 20. Ooh. That's off the board. Get back on there. Let's try that again. How many of you are here with us?
It said two, and it said 2 right here at the same time.
2. It wanted to go to the numbers.
Yeah, it did.
And then it
said
fell
2,
off.
And it went on to 2. And how old was she? How old's old girl on there on her birthday?
32.
God. What?
I just got goosebumps.
That is like a. Because hey, it said the same thing before it popped to it.
And we're not feeding it anything. You know how some devices will pick up on your voice? We're quiet and it's literally saying what's on the board. All right. Yeah.
And they're backing each other up, it seems.
Yeah.
Okay, is it better if I lay my fingers or?
I am just trying to barely touch it. My hand's so tired, but I'm gonna
It's
keep
like
going.
doing leg lifts in high school.
Please tell us anything else you want us to know. R.
Hey, guys.
R. What was that? You heard that?
I keep hearing 7, but
Are you? N? Run? Did it just say my name?
Maybe. I couldn't quite tell.
I heard it say Susan.
Okay, so that's also answering questions. So it said run. It spelled out run before it said that. So.
What did it say? I'm dead?
That's what it sounded like.
Sound like it said I'm dead.
Yeah.
But It said goodbye.
It did say goodbye. I don't know if you guys saw that before we lost. It literally said goodbye and then we lost cameras.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't even like we lost one camera. They
It's
both
all
went
the
down
cameras.
Everything went down.
Everything
and then it
went
said
down.
goodbye.
Yeah.
When they said goodbye, they meant goodbye.
Yeah.
Like we're shutting you down. Huh?
So is it something that you open back up and continue to press on with once they tell you goodbye? How does that work out?
Well, we'll ask them.
All right.
Why
not?
Let's ask them.
Why are we asking y'all?
When you said goodbye, were you saying goodbye because you were leaving, or goodbye because you didn't want to speak to us anymore?
It's like instant. Did you say Richard?
I think so.
You heard Richard?
Yeah, totally.
It just said Richard like 5 minutes ago.
Sarah?
Sarah? Can you tell me what your name is? M-A. Shit, I'm like kind of losing it a little.
It's just a going.
Mag.
What does that mean?
Oh, Maggie?
No.
I just got the chills. Yes.
Hey.
And did the box
Hey, cuz.
just say yes, the direct link say yes at the same time?
Yes.
Maggie.
I ain't gonna get my hands on it anymore. Okay, who's the second one?
Second one.
Who is that?
Bridget. It's just pushing off the board. No. Second, Maggie, not Bridget. What does that mean?
Who's the second Maggie?
It was Bridget, right? They just called her Maggie because that was what they called Irish women.
Oh, okay, so it was like a slang.
I think you guys should take a break and then focus on
Yeah,
that for a few minutes.
You don't want to keep sessions going for too long before you...
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for communicating with us. We may try to get back in touch with you in a little while, but for now we're going to go, so we'd like to say goodbye. No?
Got some.
If you want to communicate with us, you could tell us. We'll wait a moment.
Yes? Was that a yes?
Yeah, it was a yes.
It was a yes. Really?
So, would you rather communicate through the spirit box, or would you rather communicate through the Ouija board?
Didn't make that one out. I think we have multiple people here talking to us. And some of y'all are using the board maybe, and others are using
It just
the
spelled
direct link.
H-E-L.
Is that correct?
And then we're just going. Alright. Bridget, it just said Bridget. That said Bridget, did it not? This just thing just...
it sounds like
hello.
something like that.
Oh, okay, hello. Alright, because I thought I was about to go to hell. I was about to say, alright.
Hello. Who do you want to speak with on the board?
And just like that, they're not talking to me on the direct link anymore.
That's what you get for signing off.
Yeah. My wife, you don't want to talk, we won't talk to you.
3. UB3.
It's like my kids texting me. Just letters.
J.
They can scoot over if you want to hop on there, man.
Say that again?
You'll sit down, man?
You want to try this over
No,
here?
I'm good. We're doing okay where we're at, so I'll just set put a minute.
4. I don't get what they're doing.
What? Hold on. Let's see. UV3 and 4. J4.
So it's going back and forth from letters to
Numbers.
To numbers.
It's like it doesn't know what it's wanting to do. Right back to J. I don't know.
No.
Right to no. So we.
Are you having a difficult time spelling on the board?
Somehow it just concisely turned.
I'm just setting my fingers on this thing, and it's like.
And just like that, nothing on the direct link, just back to radio silence.
And we're not getting nothing either. We're getting letters and numbers.
And that one's just moving around.
It's just.
So maybe we should go ahead and tell them goodbye for now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to go ahead and go, but thank you so much for communicating with us. We may try to get back a hold of you in a little while, but for now we're going to have to go, okay? Goodbye.
It just stopped everything.
Yeah, and then nothing coming out of this, and that was just moving, nothing making sense. But it did keep going back to J, but since everything else was jumbled, you can't really put much stock in that.
Right.
So, but there for a little while, we were getting some really good communication, and the box was backing up the board, and the board was backing up the box. So that's sometimes with ITC communication, you have to kind of look at those small parts and throw the rest of it out because it's not relevant. You can't really put any stock in it.
Well, that was cool.
There you go.
No, what was cool is when you said goodbye and everything just went poof.
Right?
I couldn't believe that. I've never seen that happen.
We didn't say goodbye. It
said goodbye. And then the cameras went
all feeds.
So I don't know if the viewers seen or heard the goodbye before
No,
the
they
cameras.
didn't hear
They didn't hear.
No, it cut.
It just went dead.
I didn't even hear anyone in LA. I couldn't hear, like, all my headphones, everything just disconnected.
Everything.
When they said goodbye, they meant goodbye.
They did.
Yeah.